Hey everybody, I'm doing these plant profiles now. So this first plant is Coleus. It had a weird little like hiccup in the naming where I don't think I have it in here though, where it had like a solena oide something whatever. Oh yes, it was like, but it was like, whatever. I should just stop because I don't remember. Anyway, it had a weird name that wasn't related to Coleus as its Latin name for a little while, but then it went back to Coleus again, which is good because that's what everybody knows it as. So this one I thought was just wild. Check that out. She's wearing Coleus, and well, I might say. But look at the diversity of color in those Coleus leaves. Like this is a really cool plant, and we are very fortunate here in Southern California. I don't know that you're all in Southern California, but here in Southern California, where we don't really freeze, we grow it easily outside. Most places in the country, you know, they grow it and it's like this tall, like a little colorful bedding plant. But we can actually grow varieties that get to be like, I mean, I had one in the backyard, and I mean, it was just a single stem. Probably would have been more attractive if I had pinched it so it would branch better. I don't think these are ever going to get to be like shrubby looking things. They're not. They're a little bit sparse. They're kind of weird looking, but the leaf color is so cool. But anyway, it got to be probably, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 feet tall in my backyard. So take a look at some of that. So crazy and cool. Here we go. This one, I wish I knew what variety that is. That is so pretty. And then I have visual aids. Look at that. Okay. So this is the first year. I've been growing Coleus for like 3 years, which is not very much time. Anyway, but this, you know, they all died. The first year when it got cold, and it actually got a lot colder that winter than it was this winter. This winter, only a few of mine outside died. The first winter, almost all of the ones that I had planted outside died. And the second year, though, I was like, yeah, I'm going to just give it a try and take some cuttings because I occasionally use these in flower arrangements. They're just really pretty foliage. And sometimes they'll root in the vase, which is a nice thing. Anyway, so I took some cuttings. I mean, and all I did, you see the roots in there? This is just like kind of ugly water. Yeah, so these get indirect sun, a lot of indirect sun, and roots in the water. And then they have these really cool, I think they're called lenticels. I don't know how well you can see them. Huh, did that help or not? You see the roots. Anyway, these little white bumps on the stem down there that's under the water, which is shooting out a bunch of adventitious roots so that it can survive and absorb water there. Oh yeah, the lenticels help it to get air. So I'm not exactly sure how they do that, but that's what their job is. They help it to capture air, maybe from the water. I don't know. Anyway, I'm scared to put these in the dirt because oftentimes when you move from one medium to the next, it's too much of a shock for things. But I'm delighted that they root so easily from cuttings. So on to the specific stuff about Coleus. Tropical plants, yep, they are from Java, Asia, Africa, and Australia, with very brilliantly colored leaves, and these are in the Lamiaceae. Oh, so it's Coleus scutellarioides, right? We're always pronouncing all of the vowels. In the Lamiaceae and the Lamiales. So if you look at this, yeah, I don't know, does that help? Look it's got sides. Square stem, the leaves, as you go up the nodes here, pop out opposite each other all along the stem, okay? So I don't know that I explained that very well, and I'm just sort of assuming that you guys understand what that means, which seems to me fraught with problems. So like if leaves are in a spiral arrangement, it means that as you go up the stem, the leaves kind of come out in a spiral way. Like if you were to look down at the plant, at all the points where the leaves are coming out, they spiral as they grow up the plant, the places where the leaves emerge. So leaves can be opposite, like these are, the Coleus and all the plants in Lamiaceae, or they can be alternate, so you have a leaf coming out on one side at one node, and then the other side at the other node. Sometimes they also alternate in their opposites, so these do that a little bit. So they come out, can I do this? They come out like right here at this node, in this plane, and the next plane they'll come out a little bit shifted, so that the leaves are not competing with each other for sunlight. It's very smart. Plants are so smart. more that I know about them, the more in awe I am of them. So flowers, which are really kind of nondescript and in fact mostly pinched away to get more foliage to grow, but they're blue and they look like typical mint family flowers. It's really the leaves. These are grown for the leaves. So they also, there's varieties that are trailing, so they look really cool, like hanging over a fence or a walkway or whatever. Like if you have a wall, you can plant them and they'll trail over that wall. There are newer varieties that are that can handle some sun. So there's like sun Coleus, but it doesn't want to be in the hot, drying sun of Southern California very well. But they can handle sun, whereas the older varieties of Coleus were totally sun intolerant. They could not handle sun at all, and they'd bleach out and die with too much sun. These are good for some sun. So not super bright sun, but more sunny spots. Otherwise, they're great in containers. I mean, they're just really lovely things to make a very colorful space. And very unique colors. They're really eye-catching and lovely for that. So, oops, it just says zones 24. I think that's because that's really the only place, like I'm here in Pasadena, not too far from PCC, and in Sunset Zone 24. So they do okay. Yeah, they need hot. If it gets cold, you got to cut them and bring them inside. In fact, if you are growing them as perennials, it's best to cut them anyway and start them new, it said. Which seems to be the case, because the ones that survived out back, they're looking pretty scraggly, not very attractive. So they'll keep growing from the ends, and what you really need is for them to grow from the center again, so they kind of bush out. But they may not survive if you cut them back hard, so you got to take cuttings anyway. So yes, bedding varieties, 8 to 12 inches tall, but others can be taller. And yeah, I'll just leave that there. I was going to say spindly. I will put that in there because they're not like a shrub. They're just kind of, it's not like a focal plant where you have nothing else around it and it highlights that plant. You'd probably want other stuff around and it grows up because it's the rest of the stem is not pretty. Yep, mentioned that, roots easily. Cool article in Wikipedia. Okay, Coleus. Next up, Gettys. Hybrids. Now, I think actually I'm going to change this up here too. As I was looking this up in the Sunset Western Garden book, they mentioned many different species, and they didn't really have, it wasn't like there were different Gettys hybrids where that phrase made sense to me. Since this is in the bedding plant section of the Plant California Alliance, Plant California Alliance list, I think that they're referring to these low-growing bedding plants, which seem to me mostly Gettys patula. There may be hybrids of different species, but as far as what I could glean from Sunset Western Garden Book, Gettys patula is pretty much the one that's the bedding plant. So anyway, these are in the Asteraceae, which you should be figuring out by now if you look at that flower, although it's a little bit modified and weird. Let me show you the picture as we're talking. And in the order Asterales. Here we go. So just like with zinnias, which we haven't done, there's a lot of flowers that we've done that look like this, daisies, right? So these are the disc flowers in the inside and the ray flowers around the edge, right? This is an inflorescence. It's not a flower, right? There's like dozens, perhaps even hundreds of little flowers there. Now these have been modified so that they get these special ruffly petals, so it's way harder to tell what's going on. But they're, I mean, marigolds are not, once you know what a marigold looks like, you can pretty much identify marigolds. They have these buds, right? They look like that. You pop the flowers off after they die, otherwise it stops producing and goes to seed. They have this ferny foliage that often is very fragrant, fragrant foliage. Some people think it smells terrible. I think it's okay. So marigolds, right? Gettys, patula for the bedding variety, and then other species for other taller ones from Mexico and Guatemala. These are annual plants wherever you grow them, but they're really bloomiferous, floriferous if you keep them deadheaded. So for these from 6 inches tall, the very, very short bedding plants, to maybe like 1.5 feet tall, which is still pretty short. Full sun, regular water. They're not super picky about soil. They're not drought tolerant, sadly. Seasonal color. They only grow in the warm climate, so you like kind of switch between the calendula, which has the same sort of look, in the cool season to marigolds in the warm season. And that's it for the marigolds. Now's a good time to plant them. There's some really neat ones that are used in floral design too. Anyway, more stuff you didn't really care to hear, huh? Okay, so next we've got pansies. And I gotta say, every once in a while when I'm looking in the Creative Commons for images, I come upon something that like, whoa, like one, I can't remember what it was, what I was looking up. Whatever I did recently, yeah, that's helpful for the plant family tree thing. But anyway, I came upon this guy's pictures of his art that looked like serial killer evidence. I mean, it was super duper disturbing. That's friendly, isn't it? But when you look up pansy, you come up with something totally different, which is some guy, I think, I don't know where he is, but he calls himself Pansy Boy, and he likes to dress up in really cute outfits. My husband was like, oh man, I thought it was charming though. But here we go. This is the flower pansy, not the person pansy. And check these out. I mean, look at that. Such beautiful colors. And then nice too about these is that you can eat the flowers, you know, put them in salad. People decorate sugar cookies with them, which is, I think, like incredibly charming. If someone offered me a sugar cookie that they had decorated with their own viola or pansy petals, viola, petunia, pansies, these are, petunia's a little bit different, but violas and pansies are very similar. I would, I think I would weep. It would just be like so touching. Anyway, this is getting a little bit non-sufficient, unsuitable for work, whatever that phrase was, not suitable for work. Whatever, I don't remember. See, that's where my memory goes. You get old and you forget things, which is probably good. Leaves right there, glossy green, totally edible. Also the marigolds too, marigold petals and calendula petals too, you can eat. Anyway, but I mean, they're beautiful. And they self-seed apparently quite well. But usually you just buy them as new plants every year. Apparently you can grow them also from seed with no problems, but please note that the seed isn't viable for very long. So if you have pansy seed that you've got one year and you're going to grow it like the next year or the year after that, don't feel like it's your fault if none of them germinate, because the seeds are not viable for very long. So they're actually perennials, like little woodland perennials, but here they're treated as annuals. In fact, almost everywhere. They're grown in the winter here. I hear you. No, sorry about that. They like cool climates. The flowers are edible. Yeah, there's the, like, as far as creating species from these, it's funny, it said in Sunset, the botanists have refused to do so because they've been cultivated for so long. They are originally from Europe. There we go. Oh yeah, and this is a quote from Wikipedia. It's a hybridized plant. So it's hard to say where it's from, but it is initially from a Millennium, which is a part of the genus Viola. So different viola, a whole bunch of different viola wildflowers that grow in Europe and Western Asia. So these have been bred, domesticated, rebred, crossed with each other for so long that trying to figure out what the species are is probably not even worth the effort. So these are small little plants, 6 to 10 inches high and 9 to 12 inches wide. But the violas, the pansies, people are starting to grow these now for cut flowers. It's kind of interesting because they're really short and usually you want longer stems, but they are planting them very close together, giving them a little bit of shade, and they're stretching, which plants will do because of plant plasticity, to have longer stems. I mean, and come on, check that out. Like, that stuff is beautiful. There's a variety called Antique Shades that is so, so lovely. It's like antiques, just sort of like beautiful creamy colors and peaches and light pinks, and anyway, I love it. So 2 to 4 inch flowers. So these are bigger than violas, which are smaller. Smaller flowers in the violas, and the pansies have larger flowers. Many have multicolored flowers, which you saw earlier in the picture, in a variety of shades. That's supposed to be shades. So glad I do this so I can also, that's great, shards. Let's see, what is it going to be next? Many have oval dark blotches on the lower 3 petals that look like a face. No, not so much looking like a face here. Anyway. Well, sorry that I said that. That was in Sunset, though. Must be true. Shiny green leaves, oval to heart shaped, slightly lobed, 1.5 inches or longer. These are petite little plants.